It was a Saturday evening, the kind of night where everyone dressed a little better than usual and pretended their lives were a little more exciting than they really were. My wife, Mia, and I had been invited to our mutual friend Ethan's party, a casual get-together that somehow ended up looking like a magazine event. I wasn't really in the mood to socialize, but Mia insisted. "It'll be fun," she said, tugging my arm. "You need to relax a little." I agreed, mostly because I loved seeing her happy. She had that effortless charm that drew people in, and I'd always admired that about her. But that night, something felt different. When we arrived, the house was already filled with laughter and music. Mia quickly drifted off into a crowd of friends, and I found myself chatting with Ethan about work, life, and the usual small talk. A while later, I looked across the room and saw her, standing near the bar, holding a glass of wine, laughing at something another man had said. He was tall, confident, and clearly enjoying her attention. I watched as she leaned in closer to hear him better, her hand brushing his arm lightly as she laughed again. It was subtle, but it wasn't lost on me. My chest tightened, not with anger, but with a deep sense of clarity. She wasn't doing anything explicitly wrong, but she was forgetting who was standing on the other side of the room, quietly watching her. I didn't storm over, didn't raise my voice, didn't make a scene. Instead, I decided to respond in a way that she'd never forget. I excused myself from the conversation with Ethan, walked to the center of the room, and asked the host's permission to make a quick toast. Everyone turned to me, surprised. Mia's laughter faded, and she looked confused but curious. I raised my glass and smiled. "I just want to say how grateful I am for everyone here," I began. "It's rare to have a room full of people you can laugh with, trust, and call your friends. But tonight reminded me of something even more important." The room went quiet. "You see," I continued, "sometimes in life, we forget to appreciate the one standing beside us because we get distracted by everything around us. But true connection, the kind that doesn't fade, is built on respect, not just charm. On loyalty, not just attention. And when you find someone who truly stands by you through everything, you hold on to that with both hands." My words hung in the air. I didn't name names, didn't point fingers, but I didn't have to. Mia's eyes locked on mine, realization dawning in her expression. The crowd clapped politely, some smiling at the sentiment, others sensing the unspoken meaning. I raised my glass toward her. "To the ones who make life worth living," I said softly. "May we never forget who they are." She swallowed hard and forced a small smile, lifting her glass too, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. After the toast, I thanked Ethan and quietly stepped out to the patio, needing a breath of fresh air. The cool night air hit my face as I leaned on the railing, staring at the city lights below. A few minutes later, I heard the sliding door open behind me. "Ben," Mia said quietly. I didn't turn around right away. "Nice toast," she added, her voice trembling slightly. "It was honest," I said. "That's all." She stepped closer. "I wasn't. I didn't mean to flirt," I said gently, turning to face her. "Maybe not. But intentions don't always matter as much as actions. You didn't see the way you were looking at him, but I did." Her eyes filled with regret. "I was just being friendly." "There's friendly," I said softly, "and then there's forgetting who's watching your smile from across the room." She exhaled slowly, her shoulders dropping. "You're right," she whispered. "I got carried away. I didn't think." I looked at her for a moment, the woman I'd loved for years, the one I'd promised my life to. "Mia, I don't need an apology. I just need to know you still see me the way you used to." Her eyes shimmered under the patio lights. "I do," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I messed up. I got caught up in attention I didn't even want. But when you spoke in there, it reminded me what kind of man I married." I nodded, my tone calm but firm. "Then let's make sure we don't forget again." She reached for my hand, holding it tightly. "I won't," she said. "You didn't yell, you didn't embarrass me, and that somehow made me feel worse, because you showed me respect I didn't deserve." I smiled faintly. Respect doesn't disappear just because someone forgets it for a moment. But it does remind them why they should earn it back. She stepped closer, resting her head on my shoulder. For a while, we stood in silence, the sounds of laughter and music faint behind us. When we finally went back inside, she stayed by my side the rest of the evening, her laughter genuine, but her hand never leaving mine. On the drive home, she turned to me and said, "You didn't just leave me speechless tonight, Ben. You reminded me who we are." I glanced at her and smiled. Sometimes, the quietest reactions speak the loudest. And from that night on, she never forgot it.